Welcome to our Empathy Power Up here. And thank you for everyone for joining us now and in the future. We have a wonderful guest with us today named Celia Sandhya Daniels. She has more than 20 years of demonstrated success in managing, growing, and spearheading different initiatives at Fortune 100 companies in tech, media, healthcare, and life sciences. She's an Asian, Indian trans woman of color who is an entrepreneur, a public speaker, an activist, a motivator, a musician, artist, photographer, and filmmaker. That is amazing. So many different sides of like right and left hand sides. Growing up as a lonely, closeted kid from Southern India with stigma, discrimination, and gender dysphoria, she writes and speaks passionately about her struggles and challenges she's faced in her family, work, school, and community, both in the US and India. And as a management consultant with top Fortune 500 companies, she educates, empowers, and advocates for transgender and gender non-binary individuals in the corporate world. And Celia brings an amazing intersectional blend of ethnicity, creativity, culture, religion, and corporate experience to her bathroom to boardroom activism. So lovely to have you. Thank you and welcome, Celia.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy and Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here. I love this topic. And that was a long introduction, but thank you.
Well, you have Celia, you
There you
have
go.
this incredible. I love that last line, right? From bathroom to boardroom activism, and I think I want to dive into that. So this is our month of celebrating amazing women and impact as part of Women's History Month in March. And when I was thinking about folks, and I was like, Celia's got to be it. Oh my gosh, what an incredible story! So, Celia, could you tell us a little bit about your journey of from bathroom to boardroom activism? What is driving you in this journey, and what path that you have taken that is obviously uniquely you that we can learn from?
Absolutely. So I am, based on the introduction, I have a little bit, I would say, looking at my intersectionalities. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a father. I'm a parent of a 22-year-old daughter. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I'm a hiker, I'm a blogger, I'm a musician, I write songs, I have done a lot of things, and I'm a filmmaker, photographer. But when people look at me, they always say, hey, Celia is trans. All the other elements of my life and all the wonderful intersectionalities I have, I'm an Asian, I'm an immigrant in this country, they forget about the other parts of you and they just get fixated on just one aspect of my life, which I find very interesting. So being trans is not my agenda in life. It's not. Being a good human being is. That's my thing. I want to be a good human being, someone who is passionate, and that's what I want to be. And that's why I speak up for folks like myself who are marginalized in the corporate industry. I know a lot of people. Growing up in India wasn't easy as well. I had a lot of issues as a child growing up and trying to fit into a patriarchal community.
Mhm.
It was a little bit hard. And then I focused on my studies. I had gone through a lot in my life. I want to, just tread carefully on those areas where I talk about, I had thoughts of suicide, thoughts of other, it's a trigger warning for people who watch. I had few things that happened in my life, but most of all, I have learned from my experiences to be more, helpful to people like me. And I was in the closet. I didn't want to come out because I was thinking about, what would the world do? Will I find empathy or sympathy? Would my boss say that, oh, Celia is going through so much, and maybe I can be considerate about this person? I was known as Daniel at the time, and I didn't want to come out in my corporate life because it was full of brown uh, people. I mean, I would say a lot of my bosses and the company that I was working in the tech industry was always, it was a lot of men in that industry. And I was thinking about there were times when I've been in happy hours and we will win a large deal and we will be in our suit and conversations immediately in a sip of alcohol or beer kind of moves into
Mm-hmm.
demeaning
Mm-hmm.
women.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in those conversations and I used to think, why should you put a woman down when you're having beer and your own colleague who helped us put this presentation together,
Mm.
you're saying the person has a great rack? You know, what kind of a conversation is this? I didn't know how to react to those situations because I was inside a woman.
Mm.
Come out.
Mm.
Now that I'm out, and I used to think about these conversations, and sometimes I used to just smile and nod because I wanted to just get along with the corporate community. I didn't want to create any controversy, but I was done with it. You know, I
Mm.
was. I after a while in my life, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna come out, and let's see what happens. When I came out, I was in Capgemini. I was 3 levels below the CEO. Um,
Mm.
I was running the R&D life sciences for Capgemini in North America.
Mm.
I had a lot of clout in terms of my prestige, and I had a good visibility. I could make decisions, but I was deep inside of struggling whether I can come out and what would people think about me. And
Mhm.
well, I come out in a subtle way to the LGBTQ community, but later on I found that I wanted to be out as Celia because I couldn't work anymore, and I was going through gender dysphoria.
Mm. Mm.
When I came out, that's the first time I experienced actually looking for a job as Celia, and I didn't get a job. I
Mm.
was to look at companies that are sympathetic and empathetic
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mhm.
They had pride flags all over, and they had best employees to work for. I tried every company there, but when they looked at my resume, always there was a deep thought, and they said, "Hmm, I don't know." I was like, "Why?" We have a job as a manager. Would you like to take that? And I said, look, I have been a senior director in this companies.
Mhm.
Why would I work as a manager and not even a manager? It's like someone in a corner, um, just managing case processing for pharmaceutical company.
Mhm.
Built BPO business across the world for 30 million. And I was given a job as a case manager.
Mm.
Now, here is where I felt like companies are willing to be accepting and open as long as you fit into the company's culture, and they want to make sure that you're trans. Okay, come in as a woman, you'll be fine, but if you come in as a gender non-binary, we're going to have a
Ooh.
problem.
We don't know how to deal with you.
I started my own company. I started consulting with clients whom I used to work with. And I then found out that there's so much that they need to learn, and I also have to be patient about it. I
Yeah.
can't be
Mm.
so arrogant about making a lot of noise, but I just took a patient approach in saying that if my wife took 17 years to accept me in our 25 years of marriage,
Mhm.
I think the companies also need that kind of love and patience.
Mm.
Mm.
I
True.
need to also think about it and say that, maybe if someone may not like me, but I will say that, hey, I'm going to tell you my story and then you can hate me. But
Ah.
Daryl Davis did, to the Ku Klux Klan.
Mhm.
How can you hate
Mm.
me without? And that's the kind of approach I have taken as an intersectional person because sometimes we need empathy on both sides.
Mhm. Mhm.
They may not like a trans person. They'll say that you are a disgrace to the community. I've had a lot of people just say that, you are getting condemned because you are going to hell. So when I look at all these conversations, I felt like if I don't take a soft approach, and that's why when Kevin reached out to me and said, about empathy, I was saying that, wow, companies don't talk about it. We talk about being tolerant, we talk about being accepting, but where do you move the needle from a sympathy to empathy to embracing a person and compassion?
Mhm.
That's the kind of conversation we need. And if you want to really make a difference, we need to start from the bathroom all the way to the boardroom.
Mm.
Sometimes I quote this from Hidden Figures. The
Mhm.
three, they didn't have a basic need, and they had to run to a couple of blocks to just, even just pee. And
Mm.
that's a lot of people are going through today in the workplace because
Mm.
into the male or female. And I mean, it's changing now, but it's more tolerating. That's where we need to have this empathy, tell our stories,
Yeah.
and move the needle. That's what's going to really change. So
Wow.
that's what.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow. So much to unpack there, and love that. And I really appreciate
Mm.
how you brought the intersectionality and the fact that when we're talking, when folks are talking to you, it's about trans experience versus everything else, like you're a musician and you're the impact you're making in the boardroom, and building companies of impact globally, like you just shared. And that's so amazing. And being a parent, and that journey. And so I think that's why when we were putting the series together of Wonder Women, I think that's what got me excited, is that this is a whole person who comes from all these different perspectives, and their story is important. And that's why our journey of this Power Up, our whole mission with Empathy Power Up, is we inject empathy every week into people's lives so they can take a little lunch break, join us, and participate. So what would you recommend for people to understand their own intersectional identities and finding themselves? Because I think that's the journey you went through, and you've come out this amazing, wonderful woman. And how would you recommend others go through this journey?
I think I am where I am today because of the wonderful allies that I had, right in my family. Unfortunately, I couldn't come out to my parents because they were getting old, and I didn't know. I didn't want to trouble them. They're going through a lot of issues. Both of them passed away, but the legacy they left behind was, how do you care for people? My mom was a medical. She they did a lot of. She was a nurse, so they took medicines and went to the nearby villages and helped people. I've learned from my parents, and my dad used to go to the leprosy colony in India
Mm.
and widowed women, and my father-in-law did the same thing. They helped a lot of folks. They taught me something that I felt like, in India you could go and do something, but here you can, but at the same time there's a stigma when it comes to trans community. Someone will help a homeless person, but when the homeless person is trans, they are not able to accept that. They say, you
Mhm.
choose. The point I wanted to make is, I didn't wake up and say that, I want to be a woman. Being a woman is not a choice. Being a woman is sometimes you're born this way. It's 23 pairs of chromosomes that define who you are, not XY chromosomes or XX chromosomes. Having done a lot of research in the science field, I believe that science is trying to help us to be inclusive, not exclusive.
Mhm.
Where I think a lot of folks try to say that it's your choice. You chose this life and you're going to go through it. So, and then you're blaming the government. No, we are not blaming the government. We are helping science enhance so that they would do more research on intersex people, people who are androgynous, mental health issues, people who are going through substance abuse. Why do they do that? Why do they have suicidal ideation? Why are 41% of the LGBTQ community have attempted suicide? You
Mhm.
know, about it, there is a story to it. And that's why, if you understand the reason why they are marginalized, then you will change. So I want to just mention that in a nice way. There's a word called allies, and I want to abbreviate the word ally. A is to acknowledge your privilege.
Mm.
Acknowledge the privilege of you want to help the person, and you have the capacity and show empathy and love. A is that. The L is listen to the community. Listen to somebody when you're telling the story. Don't just assume that, oh, you chose this lifestyle. I didn't want to be Celia in my life. I wanted to have a normal life, and I married a cisgender woman thinking that I want to be a normal person. I don't want to be a trans. But unfortunately, that is not what I am, and my chromosomes, my genes in the body told me that I'm a woman. And I have to help my wife understand that. So there are times when people don't listen to each other. They have their own opinions. And so the first L is to listen to the community. The second L is to learn to unlearn, which is very interesting. Even
Very.
we do that, right? I mean, we have to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
The I is basically to instigate tough conversations. This is tough conversation. When you go to the company and tell them that I am a gender non-binary, can you hire me? The hiring manager then tells that Celia in closed doors that this person is trans and we need to make a change in our company. And that's what a person did a month back. And they got me into consulting one of the biopharmas because they were not able to hire me because they found that they didn't know how to hire me.
Oh, wow.
It's a $26 billion company. And I said, I have worked here as Daniel, I've been consulting, and I want to be known as Celia, but I don't want to have any uh, connection to Daniel because, and they didn't know how to do it because all my records in the first 15 years were in Daniel.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
in the compliance department, they sat down the security team, the HR team, the diversity team, the pride group. Almost all of them sat together and changed a 30, 40-year-old culture in the organization. And I was the first
Mm.
hired to as a consultant. Tough conversations, right? So the I is the most tough one, instigate tough decisions and tough conversations. E is to educate ourselves and to educate people around you. When you have gender neutral terms as a woman, when you're in a conference room and someone walks in and says, hey guys, how are you all doing? And that's one person with like 10 women here. Sometimes it's like, guys is not the right term. You can say, hey everyone, or
Folks.
lady.
I use folks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're addressing everybody. And gender neutral terms like firefighter. Why do you say fire? You don't, they used to say fireman. There are ways in which we can change it. So gender neutral terminologies will really help enhance the women and also the trans
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
So it's so important. The last one is support. Support by being by getting involved. Support by being by getting involved with the community. It's not just about giving a thumbs up on a LinkedIn post, but also going out there, standing with the community, and they say, "Don't say gay bill." Why is that kind of a bill there? And what if the child has a father, two parents who are there, and
Mhm.
what would the child say? I'm living with two men who are taking care of me. My dad is X dash, right? They cannot say gay. Now, it's such an absurd bill when the children are going through that, and when the parents have children who are and the children are gay. How will they even tell them? What would you tell? Oh, my
Mhm.
child is different. No, you cannot. That's where sometimes some of these decisions are very meaningless when you make these kind of decisions and try to make a change by trying to protect the entire world but kill one person for that. It's just a casualty. That's okay. But we're not living in that era anymore because children are coming out. Every little child is important.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's why I think that this word allies is so proper when you look at it. So I always love to say this to my friends, as my wife, she's a cisgender person, my daughter's cisgender, and they are my allies. And I have learned to be who I am. I have learned to be accepting. I've learned to be grateful to people like yourself, even both of you in the call, to give this platform for me to talk about these things. And this is what we need more and more. So yes, I
Oh, love the allies. Oh my gosh. I wrote it down because I was like, so much amazingness out of that. Thank you for that gift you've given to the world with that. Love
Mhm.
it. What an incredible I'm just so soaking it in. Amy, if you have, I'm just
Well,
so
one
soaking it
one thing that I love about that is that there's a lot of performative allyship that's happening in the world, and that using the word you're using the word ally and you're turning it into something that's actionable, that doesn't moves it from a place of like, just performative to actionable, right? And that's what we think empathy is. It's like taking action based
in.
on
Mhm.
learning from what other people's experiences are. So that's in line
Oh,
with what we've been talking
and,
about.
I love
and
that, moving from positive to action. Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that.
yeah, and what's so interesting is it's so topical right now because pride organizations throughout are now cutting ties with companies that are performative. Like I'll use the example in Seattle, Amazon sponsors the Pride events. This year, they can't. The Pride organization said nope. Amazon has given $1.5 million to anti-LGBTQ politicians, so we will not take their money. And so now Pride is not going to be sponsored by Amazon. And these are great steps, and this journey. And I hope people listening understand and hold your companies accountable. This is an important part. The AT&T is another example of a company that will tweet out the Pride logo on Pride Month, but on the back end is sponsoring all these other bills that are impacting our community.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Mhm.
I want to keep talking to you, but for time, we have one last question, and this is the same question we asked for all our amazing Wonder Women this month, and it's really about, what do you hope and wonder for in the future?
I want to be like the Captain Marvel.
I love it.
And I watched this story of Captain Marvel. She's. I love Avengers and sci-fi a lot because sometimes I relate to sci-fi. I believe there is that
Yeah.
people beyond human beings who are that way. One of the things that I always like to, I love telling this to even in my Christian community. I tell them that humanize issues that we're going through. Don't politicize it. Any issue that you take, always humanize it. People are going through issues because it's human issues, not political issues. And that's where I think we need to change the world by providing a lot more insight into these conversations here, which really helps us to have those conversations. And to me, if I want to make a change, if I want to see a world that's better, if I can do something to change, influence my daughter, I have done my job. If I can do, I'm 53 years old, I'm getting old. This is a time when I have to slowly step back and let the younger generation lead the way, but also show them the way. My daughter was curious when she was 13 years old. She said, "Dad, why are you wearing a sari? I saw a picture of you." She's 22 today, and she's a part of the Young Democrats and the delegate. She's a young delegate for California. Um, and she won that in our slate, and she's one of the young delegates in our county. But what I found was she always makes these tiny little things, and she says, "Dad, and I always tell her, call me Dad because I don't really care. I'm always going to be a dad. You have a wonderful mom, and so we will. This is how we work at home." And she just said, "Is it okay to call you Dad even in the meetings when we're?" And then I said, "You know what? You are my daughter, and I want you to keep that relationship. Sometimes we don't understand these things. Sometimes we don't get it. But to me, my family is so important." And my daughter kept saying that, and she's a big ally for the LGBTQ community and her friends and the younger generation in my county in LA that I've seen are all changing. Even in companies, we need to provide space for younger generation to breathe. 2025, 60% of the workforce is going to be millennials and Gen Zs. If the companies don't wake up and create and pave this kind of way, have these conversations, then we will never be able to attract a really good creative talent. We don't want all baby boomers sitting there and just nodding heads. We want younger generation to make these changes and leaders to come and make the change. So if I'm a catalyst for that, if I can influence one person in my life, which I have done, I'm very happy about my daughter, the way she's turned out. She's 22 now. And she's not only an advocate for the LGBTQ community, but she's an advocate for environmental policy. She's now going to get that going. And she said, you focus on trans policies and I'll focus on environmental policies. We'll do what we can. And that's, I mean, that's what we want to see.
Wow. Thank you for that. And thank you for the impact you've made. And I love how you talked about let's humanize instead of politicize. And I think that's that's what's important, is sharing those stories and telling our stories. And thank you for sharing your story with us and our community here. I am, every time I talk to you, Celia, I leave with so many feelings of love and and just excitement and passion, and you inspire me to go and continue, because there are some days I feel like, why am I still doing this, right? Like I could just sit and play video games and just be fine, but then you inspired me. Thank you so much for joining us, sharing a little bit of your time with us. Amy, I would love to go back to you.
Yeah, to close it out. So a couple takeaways from me, Celia, is that what you said, do what you can, because I think so many people think that these problems that we're having in the world are so large. But what if every person stepped in and said, let's do what I can? How could we move the needle forward? So thank you for inspiring us to move that needle that much forward. And by sharing your story, I know this phrase of people are hard to hate close up, so move in and share your story and be part of that. So by sharing your story and all of us sharing our story, we become closer and build a greater sense of empathy between each other. So thank you again for your time. And we will be back next week with our next installment, and I think our final installment for March around Wonder Women. So thank you, Celia. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us. And let's share some more stories. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.